Call the downtown BDA meeting to order. Please stand for pledge of allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
3 minutes late, not 2. Okay.
No, 2 or 3.
Item number 1, public participation.
There's no sheet, but
Name and
there's
record
not a lot of people.
Name and record for the routine.
Sean Ruist, 53 Lancaster Road. I was just looking at a document from the Capital Region Council of Governments, which was our metropolitan planning organization for the city of Bristol. And Justin just handed me this public outreach thing. I haven't looked at it yet, but I had prepared this beforehand. And in this best practices manual, it says that we should educate the public about transit-oriented development. And it says one potential impediment to TOD is resistance from residents, political leaders, or developers who may be skeptical of its benefits or effectiveness. Residents living near a station area might be fearful of potential traffic crime or perceived impacts of higher density development. The success of a TOD program relies partly on an effective outreach program that allays fears and illustrates the social and economic benefits. The visioning and planning process mentioned above provides an opportunity to engage in outreach. And I know it mentions, visioning and charrettes and all that stuff. And it also, in this manual, mentions surveys, which the city of Bristol already did. A survey for the plan of development. Justin, I gave you that information before. Yeah. I wanted to give you this also. And then I'll have to read what you gave me.
Yeah.
On the back, thank you.
Sure, thank you.
That's all, set. John?
That's it, thank you.
Thanks. Anyone else? No. Can I have a motion to accept the minutes for the April 21st, 2016 meeting? Move it.
Second.
Motion made, seconded. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed, motion passes. New business, downtown site updates.
I put in the word site, but I guess I should have just labeled this downtown updates. I want to talk about, I think that the committee, just to remind the committee and the folks here that the downtown committee is obviously concerned with the Depot Square site, but we, kind of look over all of downtown. So a couple things to make note of. First, up at Northside Square, D'Amato has renovated a significant portion of the building up there and is now offering what they're calling executive suites at Northside Square. What these are, it's sort of an incubator space. There's, several, I'd say at the moment, 10 to 15 really well done office suites available for lease from office users, medical, and all sorts of different users. There's shared conference space. So what we have here is new office space, or renovated office space, which for downtown doesn't happen every day, right? So for us in the BDA, for Kristen and I, it provides sort of a new build out for us to market to potential tenants, right? And some of those potential tenants could come from our Startup Bristol program, or just from companies that contact us pretty regularly anyway looking for space. So wanted to promote Northside Square. There was an article in the paper I kind of associated with downtown. The Mumfest is returning this year. Mark Wallerisiak and the All Heart effort are helping to coordinate that, so we want to support that and promote that at the end of September. I want to touch one project downtown, is the Supernatural move. Now, the relocation of Supernatural, actually from Northside Square down to 224 North Main, I think is the address. We worked with Supernatural on a grant, a Mayor's Economic Development grant, and obviously we've been working with Supernatural for some time to help them figure out this move. I think it's important to realize what this move represents, right? We have long-term, high-quality business with name recognition in Bristol choosing to come, I say, deeper into downtown. This is a big thing that we should take a minute and sort of celebrate. They're buying the property, so that's great for the company. But it's exactly what we've been talking about, right? We've been talking about the importance of these local businesses that people trust, that people patronize, making the decision to come downtown. We don't need all of them, but if we can grab a hold of some of these businesses that we know folks in the community and really outside the community will patronize, that's a really good thing for downtown. So I think that that piece of the supernatural move may have been lost, but it hasn't been lost in the BDA, I hope, in this committee. It's these dominoes are going to start to fall downtown, and that's the way we do it, I think. Obviously, we'll talk about Bristol Hospital. That's a local organization that's making the commitment to its own community. I think that's how we start this process downtown. So we're seeing it work already. I guess that's it for updates. We're working on a new project for across the street and for the Depot Square site, but it's very, very early. It's a project that we hope that we'll bring to the committee when it's time, but we hope it will align with what the city's looking for across the street. I just want the community and the committee and everyone to understand that we're not just sort of sitting waiting to see what happens across the street. We are pretty active on the site. So do you have anything to add to that? Or?
No, that's true, and we're working, that new project is working with Malone Room as well as with the hospital, so they all work in conjunction together, and it all flows nice, and so it's not just a building pop and a building plop, it all works and flows together for one nice development.
It's just the type of project we're going to continue to pursue.
Through the
I
chair,
get, yeah.
May I add one thing?
Yeah.
I had the opportunity to speak with the executive management of the bank that's financing the project for the Supernatural.
Yeah.
And they said, you talk about moving closer to downtown, they said very positive things about they're hearing about downtown. And I think this might be another one of those tentacles from the hospital deal that we didn't think about originally there.
I think you're right.
As we talked about the positives of having a major developer step up. They said positive things about not only the potential of across the street with a new project of that size, but the effect for downtown Bristol. So hearing that from a banker out of town, I thought that's something to share.
And that's a significant loan.
You know, it's not,
And it's a local banker, Byron over at Simsbury. You know, for the local bank, it's a good point, because these local projects, and I call them local because they're local businesses thinking about expanding locally downtown, most likely they're working with local banks,
you bet.
so it's an ecosystem.
Anything else? Malone Room, you're up.
I guess maybe I'll just give you a quick setup. Malone Room is always going to be here at the downtown committee, and they've been helping us so much in a lot of different ways, and tonight the floor is yours. Maybe you guys could give us an update on some of the things that you're working on. You know, I'll leave it at that.
What do you want to begin with? Do we want to start with the task list and then move into outreach and then into the stuff you're doing?
Yeah, we'll start boring and go more interesting.
It's got absolutely right. Keep this on track. So what we did is to digest the narrative
Thanks, Vince.
that we gave you with the scope of services and tried to put it into a task list so it shows where we are going and keep track of ourselves as we are going. So we had an initial meeting last month. We made some requests to BDA for information that's coming. We talked about administratively how we're going to do this. Mike's going to talk to you about an outline of an outreach plan. And this is a working effort, so you get the opportunity to comment. But this is not us, this is you, we're working for you. Talking about how do we deal with social media, how do we create and maintain a community contact list, which you already have, and we have to build on it, and conducting a public survey or adding to that survey that you already have, and then also the two visioning workshops, the first visioning and then the review later on. So we need to talk about that a little bit and Mike will talk on that. And then we get into market assessment. So these are the major headings some milestone dates. And so we really need to make progress within the next month toward the first workshop meeting before the beginning of the summer. And then we have, as the technical people working with you, have the opportunity to put all of the technical data together and the concept, and begin to work on some concepts based on what we're hearing from that initial workshop. So all this is the beginning of putting the nuts and bolts together, and so we can tighten those nuts and bolts as we move forward.
Quick question, before the Bristol Press prints these dates, are these hard dates?
No, these
So
are my dates.
Your dates.
These are my dates that I need to keep
Okay.
in order to get, that we all need to keep in order to stick within our 6-month
But
time
any,
slot.
any visioning workshops, this is your target, you'll announce a date that's gonna be.
We will collectively
Okay, got it.
work on that. We have to figure out when that's going to be, where it is, but that's the time frame, and they're generally beginning, if you call them week-ups,
Mhm.
that's the target where we want to be. So these
Excellent.
aren't, we need to keep thinking about these things in order to keep ourselves on track, or else time will slip. We want to be done, we said 6 months, and 6 months is October, so that doesn't leave us a lot of time. So it's given to you, comment back through Justin as to what's real and what's not, and we need to pick up the pace on some things or push back on others. I hope we're not pushing back. I think we got to keep moving.
That's my
I
question.
mean, and then the ongoing piece is what Tom has been working on with you and Justin there. And we're here throughout this thing to work with potential clients, if you will.
Excellent, thank you.
I mean, the intent is this is going to be a living document. So whereas we're going forward, one, you as a committee can see that we're moving things forward, or if we need to reprioritize. So for other people, these are just milestones we're trying to think. So, but if we get a hard date, we'll plug that in. But we anticipate we'll almost be delivering this document to you, an updated document at every meeting.
Excellent.
Just so you guys feel that we're moving forward, but also we're doing it in a timely manner.
And you'll see us, Tom and myself and Mike, depending on what the topic du jour is. Norm Logan will be here when we're talking about parking and so on. So you'll see some constant, and then you'll see some people coming in and out. But the intention is that between Tom and myself, we'll be at, either or both of us will be at each of these meetings as we go forward.
All right, and the next key phase is really the public outreach plan. We want to draft this early as part of it, the process, in order to ensure that we're identifying all of the correct stakeholders.
Just one. Thank you.
I have that.
We're all set.
All the members or whatever.
We want to make sure that we're identifying all of the right key stakeholders. We're looking ahead at scheduling. If there's other events or public outreach going on in town, that we're very well aware of that, and we don't have any conflicts on schedules and dates. We want to leverage the best we can sort of your existing flow of information. So what we're looking at is a multi-pronged approach here. A project website, something we just started working on. I'm hopeful to get together. I sent an email to Justin today to see if we can get together next week to start talking some ideas, do a couple markups on what we think, some potential information that we could have on there, how we want to be able to sort of market, brand, and be able to put the information out there to get some buzz and get some excitement for it. Of course, we're going to be able to use what's already there, that framework. We don't want to redirect folks to something that they're not used to going to for information, so we want to keep it all in one spot, but we want to be able to have it where it stands enough alone, where it has its own prominence there, and people are going to go to that, and that'll be one of the central spots where people will be going to get information as we work through existing conditions, whether it's a land use, a parking assessment. If they're interested in that level of detail, we could have some of that information up there on conditions, as well as alternatives, so it becomes an informed public and one-stop shopping for a lot of the information. The next part is really the social media, being able to leverage that. We've put together a couple options. We think option one, which is really the preferred, is using what you have in a 6-month time frame. You don't want to try to start from square one to begin redirecting traffic to a certain area. You want to utilize the traffic that's already there and build upon it. If necessary, we will provide additional social media if we don't think we're getting enough capture, or if something comes up where we need to have a level of specificity there, we would be able to break that out as well. One part that kind of goes hand in hand with this is being able to have a dedicated email for this tied into the BDA website so people can be able to begin asking questions, and those can be funneled to us if they're technical or if they're pertaining to some specifics, or if it's just some general information. We can work with the BDA on how we want to handle that. The other key part to this is really getting into the surveys. And the way we look at public surveys is multi-pronged approach. Traditionally, you would have workshops where you'd have a meeting like this where people would come and provide input. We're able to provide that same kind of environment via the internet, through the different outreach tools that are there. We're thinking early on we want to do a lot of visioning, so we're planning in June to have a visioning workshop. The visioning workshop is going to be all about ideas, asking the community what they think, being able to provide them with some tidbits of information to give context to what's going on so they are informed. But really, what are your ideas? Being able to give us input on some different massing, some different types of buildings, some different potential layouts to say, I like that, I don't like that, to be able to chime in on that. While we're doing an actual public workshop on that type of material, we're able to also have it as part of an online workshop. So people can get online, be able to get a little bit of information, and be able to vote for what they like, what they think, the direction should be, some of the ideas they may have. There will be write-ins, there will be pictures from other areas in Connecticut and beyond of different forms of development that we think may work here. We have a pretty large database of that, and we want to hear, from them of if they think this is a good idea. If not, what do you think is a good idea? All building up to tie into sort of Tom's concept planning, where we're looking at the remainder of the site after we net out the hospital for what it could be. We want to ensure that what it could be is rooted in the reality of engineering, the market, the land use, and all of the technical parts, but it also captures the feel of the community because it is going to be the new focal point of the downtown, and it really needs to reflect the spirit and the vision for all the residents. So that's going to happen early in the summer, and this is all sort of the big picture idea parts of it. What we're also planning is for the latter half of the summer, possibly right after school starts in early September, is to be able to get into more of a technical kind of workshop, a design charrette. I'm glad someone actually pointed out on the CROG site, they do a great job of being able to sort of put these guidebooks together on how to handle public outreach as part of the TOD. A lot of our public outreach plan has a lot of parallels with that in the approach, as well as the styles that we'll be able to bring to that. So in September, we're looking at a design charrette in which we're able to go through and throw some concept plans up there and break out into small groups where people are able to then engage and be able to get some of those visions down on paper to really see what it could be like and to be able to make it as close to real as possible, where you start seeing buildings, you start seeing massing, you see perspectives. It gets a level of excitement and it gives a level of detail of what the future could hold. So that's really looking at sort of the end of the summer or early September. Timing is going to be something we're going to have to sit down and work out with other schedules, looking at when a venue is available and to ensure that we're going to get as many people as possible. What we're trying to do with the document here is just to provide a framework. I think for the BDA, what we're going to ask is there any other questions that you would like to have answered as part of the process in that? We're very good at being able to take big picture ideas and thoughts and be able to translate those into some questions. So if you're curious if the public is wondering, will a park or will an athletic amenity work in the downtown, we're able to ask the questions and phrase it in a certain way to be able to glean that information from them as part of the survey, as well as make it useful and to see the other ways that people have voted on various other issues. So this is a really good starting point. I want this to be viewed as sort of a living, breathing document. It's not set in stone. If things need to be adjusted along the way, if we don't feel like we're engaging properly, we're going to be able to adjust that along the way. But we think this is a good program that we have used in the past, and we think it would work really, really well here. So we're open to any sort of input and suggestions you may have on this, either tonight or at any of the other subsequent meetings as we get into sort of the plan itself and that public outreach plan.
Quick question. How do you envision using our existing social media, for example, Facebook and Twitter, the existing city hall departments, for example, just BDA has one, mayor's office has one, public works, water department. Is it just to get the word out, or is it to communicate back and forth?
It's to get the word out as well as communicate. So what we're going to do is when we launch the survey, we want to be able to use the city's Facebook page, say, hey, there's a community survey up on here, go here. And that go here is going to be the new website that we're going to work on. We're going to be able to point people, and we also want to be able to get a presence on some of the other news media, so we'll be able to put some information up on there where if there is another social media account in town that we have access to, be able to say, hey, look at what's going on. We're having a workshop on Saturday. Why doesn't everybody come in, chime in? This is what it's going to be about, and be able to start tying all those loose ends together. So we're really kind of building the web and the network of getting as many people as we can, because that's what it's really all about. Nobody goes to just one source for news, contact, or social media in this day and age. We want to be able to tie in as many as possible.
So we should, I mean, we all pretty much share each other, but we should make sure that when they start putting stuff out,
Kristen's gonna
coordinate with all the other departments, and we make sure we all blast it out on
Yeah.
Twitter. I mean, I have a mayor's Facebook page, Twitter account, and get it out to all those.
You know Kristen,
Yeah.
she's gonna be the office contact for the social media stuff to make sure that all the right sites get it.
And then many of the councilmen, we all have Facebook, or they have Facebook, and they share it on there as well, so I should be able to get.
And what's powerful is that I'll talk about All Heart in a minute, but BristolAllHeart.com,
Yeah.
our marketing arm, that's a lot of horsepower there, so that'll be a main piece for not only the social media stuff, but the surveys, and
Yeah,
we'll have a page on that.
And let's decide how we kind of, I think when we sit down and get together, let's decide how we want to use that, because that's a huge resource.
Yeah.
Whether we want to link directly on that or put a sub-page on that, how we want to exactly go about it. There's pros and cons to, every one, but I think, that is clearly an established means of outreach and communication.
Through the chair. Once you do your outreach and you get responses and people who come and participate, either in workshops or something, what do you use to make sure that we've got an independent representation of the target markets we hope to hit?
What we do is we ask questions on, are you a resident, are you not a resident, are you a business owner, do you work here, do you have children here, what is your demographic, what is your age group? We ask all those questions
We'll
up
see
front.
that.
And then what we're going to do along the way is report back in. So halfway through the survey, we're going to say we have X number of respondents. Here's who's responding. We're surprised that we're not getting responses from this demographic.
That's where I'm going.
So how best do we want to reach out to this demographic that we're missing in case we are missing? We're in a project now in North Haven where we're missing a chunk of the 30 to 44-year-olds on our online survey. And it's just where people are going to find their information in town. So now we're going out through the public schools, through their email blasts, and be able to use PTA email blasts, reaching out, and we know we'll get the younger families that way to be able to fill in that part of the survey, because it was one of the gaps we had missed in our communications.
So based on our demographics and things you see about our town, you'll be able to tell us if it's representative or not. Because,
Exactly.
See, we can have 19 chefs in the kitchen, obviously, but I know there's a pretty strong feeling on the council. We want to target a lot of this stuff towards young people.
Yeah.
Because we're looking towards retention of some of the young folks in town. And so you'll be able to tell us if that's the
Yeah, and
case.
we're gonna ask questions on, where do you shop, what are you interested in, what do you think the town has, and if we feel like if we're missing the market segment that is, say for instance, it's restaurant driven and we wanna really know the foodies in town, and we're not picking up on people who are very interested in that, we're gonna look at a way that we can be able to reach out to them, either through maybe some of the existing restaurants here, put a little flyer in the window, put something up, just so people are gonna come in and out and we can capture that segment of the population.
Makes sense?
Anything else?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Next.
Concept.
For the
Developer, so you want to hold that on until they have some input on it?
let's hold it off till we get input.
Is that all?
So where we are, from a physical point of view, as I said before, we're collecting data, assembling base maps, and trying to understand the adequacy of public facilities. That's the physical side. Mike talked about the social, and he's working on the market side. So in the next month, what we need to be doing is some of it may be old hat to you, but it's not to us. And so we really need to understand what physical things we're dealing with. What is the adequacy of the sewer? How deep is that storm line right out here on Main Street? And so on. So between now and next month, at the next meeting, we're going to go through all of those physical things with you as to what are the constraints, we're building an envelope in which and framing, I guess is the better word, the site as to what can actually go on here and what there are limitations, if there are limitations, to opportunities for development. You probably know those things, but we don't. And so we need to get our arms around that, and by the next meeting, we will have all of that data for you. That's what's occurring next next month, so we're gonna be,
Yeah, I owe you the CAD file.
we'll work,
from
we'll
years back, and we'll
we'll
get you
work
some-
through on those.
Yep, okay.
It hasn't held us up.
Okay, good.
We're already grinding through the data.
So that's the inventory sort of thing. And then that will then set the framework in which to have discussions of that first workshop. So we want you to see that first at your meeting, and then we can go live with it beyond that.
I can say we're short term into this contract, but you guys have done a lot of work already, so.
Good. Just keep pushing us, and the faster we move, the faster we all get to the end.
Absolutely. Anything else? What was that?
We're good.
Okay. You're good?
I'm good.
Bristol Hospital update.
Good afternoon. I'm Tiffany Fernandez. I'm the Administrator for Ambulatory Development Services and Project Lead for Bristol Hospital on the downtown site. Bristol Hospital has committed extensive resources for the past 4 months to deliver a revised draft that will contain the necessary requisite and qualifications for a May 28th milestone with the city. The building size is yet to be determined as we are halfway through our programming and basis of design stage with our RFP, but we can disclose that the building will be less than 150,000 square feet.
Excuse me, did you say less than?
Less than, yes. The hospital has worked diligently on putting together a plan and has kept in mind the city's needs. The proposed site has carved out a substantial portion of Main Street for retail, and this portion would not be owned by the hospital, but allowed back to the city for them to do as they wish. The majority of our building will face Riverside Avenue, and there will be an aesthetically pleasing angle at the end, where on the corner, where we'll have an entrance of the building for the Main Street and Riverside corner. We're going to provide our own structured parking just to meet the needs of the building for now, and we have been in really great relationships with the city to meet, and will continue to do so in terms of parking for public and private.
Thank you. Thank you, Tiffany. Any questions? I can say that we've been in constant contact with the hospital. I think Justin and Tiffany probably talk to each other 3 times a day, I think. And the project is moving along. We're excited on the city side to see how quick it's moving. The hospital has been, from day one, pedal to the metal and going flat out. And we're excited about this project that's making progress. Doesn't seem it because it's all done on paper, but it is making progress. Anything else that I missed on that?
No?
Okay. Thank you, Tiffany.
Mayor, can I ask you?
Go ahead. Wait a second, Tiffany.
No, she's
So
okay.
you're good. Okay, goodbye.
From our side, we expect to get some detail or something from them, I think the next day.
We are I am currently scheduling a special city council meeting. It's gonna be Tuesday night. It probably hasn't even been emailed out yet.
This is next Tuesday night?
Next Tuesday night, it'll be a special city council meeting to, the hospital be on one of those, one of the items.
Okay, I was wondering what the next.
Yeah, that's, the deadline, the next deadline is the 28th of May. That's the next deadline.
Yes, yeah.
So we're gonna have a special city council meeting next Tuesday.
Okay,
They were probably emailing it at 4:30 tonight.
okay.
Okay?
I have a question. Are we still having a big interest with the developers as far as across the street?
Other developers?
Have more people inquired about it?
We had a meeting 2 weeks ago maybe with another developer who,
So it's grown.
yes, we have some big developers that are interested.
It's early for all these discussions, but the important thing is that that's our job, in a way, is to be that person that these folks can contact to just talk about the site, right? To talk about what's planned for the site, to talk about opportunities for the site. In development, there are a lot of projects that I work on that never make it this far, right? They just don't get here. I say we, right? This is no different, right? I work with manufacturers. Sometimes I get really far down the line with a manufacturer, for example, to build in the business park, and it just doesn't happen at the end. That's development, right? That's real estate. So there's no difference here across the street. I want to, the part of the reason for putting this into the BDA's hands is to do just that, to have a resource, to have someone on the ground willing to talk, not willing, but excited to talk with folks about development across the street. So that's kind of the way we're handling it. No different from the way the industrial committee, when we get a project that I think will work and you guys will support, even if I think you won't support it, but it's not a crazy idea, if we bring it to you and see where it goes, I think that's the idea of downtown.
Okay. Old business, renaming downtown site.
Just wanted to provide an update. Last month, you all kind of made that decision to get out into the community and to see if there were thoughts from the community on renaming that site. What we've done is put a survey up on the bristolallheart.com website. Go to bristolallheart.com, go to the Heartbeat blog, which is on the site. It's the first story on that blog now, and we'll keep it near the top so it won't be too hard to find. It's a simple survey, monkey survey. It asks you to put in your name, your contact info, and then of course I think it gives you 2 or 3 options to, if you have a different name for the downtown site. In June, at your regular scheduled meeting, we'll have those suggestions for you. And you guys can make a decision if you want to choose one of those suggestions. If folks have, by the way, have the option of keeping the name as is, Depot Square, so we'll address that in June. The deadline to submit your suggestions is June 3rd, so get up on to the All Heart website and put your suggestions in. Right now we have about 30, I think, about 30 responses. We'd like to increase that just to give you all a healthy pool of names to select from.
Questions on that? Motion to adjourn. Move it.
Second.
Motion made, second, discussion. Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed, motion passes.